Chapter 555. Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips and inched closer. She hesitated for a moment before grabbing onto Snake's hand and said, "Maybe, there is someone in that world that she could not bear to part with." Snake chuckled and looked at Gu Mengmeng's little hand, saying, "This is the first time you have taken the initiative to hold my hand." Gu Mengmeng did not say anything and did not retract her hand. She just looked at Snake quietly because she knew that Snake had something to say. Snake used 2 breaths to adjust his emotions before saying, "The last divine weapon she needs is me." Gu Mengmeng was stunned and frowned slightly. Snake used his finger to gently smooth Gu Mengmeng's brows and said, "You are already ugly enough. If you make wrinkles, you will be even uglier." Gu Mengmeng chuckled and said, "Yeah, you are the expert in skin care, I will listen to you." Both of Snake's hands landed on Gu Mengmeng's in the end. He held on to her small fists as if they were a source of energy for him. He slowly started to recall the past that had been washed away by time and could no longer evoke any emotions. He said, "The key to activating the gate of transmigration is a blood relative of the Beast King level. No one knows what kind of agreement she made with the beast deity. Anyway, after she suddenly woke up, she ran to a cave and found my beast father who had just woken up from his hibernation. She proposed to mate with him. Then, there was me." Gu Mengmeng was a little dramatic. She suddenly thought of the scene in Legend of Mi Yu, where Sun Li held her stomach and said to the courtiers, "The late king sent me a dream and we had sex in the dream. In the end, when I woke up, I was pregnant." Ha ha ha. Snake did not know what Gu Mengmeng was thinking and continued, "Her other partners all loved her, were afraid of her and indulged her. But my father was different. Maybe it was the nature of a snake. His love was possessive and selfish. There was no such thing as sacrifice and fulfillment in a snake's dictionary. When he found out that she had mated with him just to give birth to a beast king's blood relative to open the door of transmigration and abandon him, he was furious. Hence, he threw me into a cold pond. I slept at the bottom of the pond for many years and did not know what happened after that. But when I woke up and broke out of my shell, there was no longer a messenger of the beast deity in this world. As for the memories I inherited, they only lasted until the moment when my father sank me to the bottom of the cold pond." Gu Mengmeng patted Snake's shoulder lightly. "At least you survived. That's good enough." Snake sneered, his gaze filled with a tinge of helplessness as he asked, "Do you really think that living and not dying is a good thing?" Gu Mengmeng could not answer this question. She remembered reading a sentence in a book, "1,000 years of life gives birth to 1,000 years of loneliness." The beginning of his life was a scheme and exploitation. He was even more unfortunate than himself. At least, before her father cheated on her, Gu Mengmeng had enjoyed a few years of parental love. Snake looked up, as if he had thought of something interesting. He asked, "Is there a beast king among your sons?" Gu Mengmeng's face froze. "No." Chapter 556. Gu Mengmeng's smile froze on her face for a moment. Indeed, ever since she came to the beast world, there seemed to be people confessing to her, expressing their goodwill and requesting to mate with her. Indeed, she could always see fanaticism, stubbornness, adoration and possessiveness in the eyes of various males. But Snake was a special case. His eyes were dark but clear, not the kind of clarity that came from someone who did not understand anything, but the kind of clarity that came from someone who had gone through many vicissitudes of life. Gu Mengmeng asked herself, even if she had started practicing 10,086 ways to seduce a snake demon, since she was in her mother's womb, with her less than 20 years of skills, she would not be able to play strange stories from a Chinese studio in front of a 1,000-year-old demon like Snake. Snake's special interest in her should be due to his curiosity towards her mother. If it was her, she would also want to know what was so good about that world that her mother was so obsessed with going back. She did not hesitate to abandon so many partners who had placed their lives in her hands, and even wanted to use her own bloodline as the key to open the door to transmigration. And this curiosity was not equivalent to adoration. Snake's hostility towards Elvis and the rest and his obvious possessiveness towards her were probably due to his snake nature. Selfish, greedy, that's all. Looking at it from another perspective, if one day you adopted a stray dog, and this dog was rather cute, foolishly wandering around in front of you every day, comforting your lonely soul and boring life. Then one day, the original owner of the dog came looking for you, saying, "This dog belongs to me, return it." If it was you, you would also feel uncomfortable, right? Of course, modern people have the most basic upbringing and etiquette, so if the original owner could provide sufficient evidence to prove that the dog really belonged to him, no matter how unwilling he was, he would still return it to him. At most, he would just discuss, "Add me on WeChat? Let me visit this idiot when it's convenient." But Snake was different. Just like what Elvis had said, in the beast world, taking by force was the right thing to do. Back then, Elvis broke off the beast horn that Orton used to share food and snatched it for Gu Meng Meng to play with. Not only did Elvis not feel that there was a problem, Orton also looked as though it was only natural for him to be snatched. "I can't beat you, so I deserve to be snatched by you." This was the accepted theory in the beast world. Even now, the logic was still the same. If Gu Meng Meng was a stray dog, Snake would have picked her up or snatched her. The original dog owner Elvis could not defeat Snake, so he could only watch helplessly as this dog recognized the snake as his master. Moreover, he even asked, "Snake King, can I add you on WeChat?" He could not do it, because the person who transmigrated was Gu Meng Meng, not Ma Huatang. This analogy made Gu Meng Meng's face twitch. She despised the act of comparing herself to a stray dog. It must be because Snake, this demon, kept putting his palm up and calling her Tu Meng to train her to shake hands had affected her perception. Gu Meng Meng twitched her lips before replying to Snake with a look of disdain, "Scram." Snakel just quietly watched as the expression on Gu Meng Meng's little face changed a few times after he raised the mating request. The conclusion she came up with was actually, "Get lost." Chapter 557. Gu Meng Meng put on a perfunctory smile and heaved a sigh of relief, saying, "Thank you so much for being so considerate for me." Snake turned his hand slightly and held on to Gu Meng Meng's wrist. His upper body leaned forward and his other hand easily grabbed onto Gu Meng Meng's other wrist. Both his hands were placed on both sides of Gu Meng Meng's body, restraining both of her hands, not giving her a chance to escape. His entire body shrouded Gu Meng Meng with a strong sense of oppression. His pair of dark green eyes carried a depth that Gu Meng Meng could not understand. There was a kind of temptation that spread through the dangerous scent, like an invisible hand, firmly grabbing onto Gu Meng Meng. "Let's work together and give birth to a child with the bloodline of a beast king to open the gate of transmigration. Then, bring me along to your original world, all right?" Gu Meng Meng's body could not move as if her acupoints had been sealed. Even though Snake's pressure made it hard for her to breathe, she could not even move backwards to avoid him. She could only bite the bullet and look into Snake's eyes. She shook her head with difficulty and said, "I promised Elvis and Leah that I will not abandon them. I will not leave them." Snake squinted his eyes and said thoughtfully, "I heard that in your world, there is something called law. A female can only mate with one male, or else she will be captured and locked up." Gu Meng Meng nodded instinctively and responded with a single word, "Yeah." Snake's face slowly inched closer to Gu Meng Meng and he gave an extremely evil smile, saying, "Since you can only have one partner, why not choose the strongest one? I will accompany you to transmigrate back and become your only legal partner. With my abilities, I will be the king no matter which world I am in. That way, no one will ever bully you, isn't that good?" Gu Meng Meng did not avoid Snake's eyes and just looked at him quietly. After a long while, she slowly opened her mouth and said, "You just want to see with your own eyes what the world that your mother could not bear to part with looks like, right?" Snake's lips curled up into a vague smile, but he did not know why. Tilting his head, he said, "If I say yes, will you satisfy me?" Gu Meng Meng shook her head and said, "I will not use my own children as the price to open that door of transmigration." Snakel sneered and returned to his original position. His right hand was still holding onto Gu Meng Meng's wrist, but his gaze was looking into the distance. He said, "She is calmer than you, more rational than you and more heartless than you. No wonder my father fell in love with her that year. She is indeed the most suitable female for the snake race. Snake turned his head and looked at Gu Mengmeng with disdain. He smiled. Even though you are from the same world, you and her are so different. Gu Mengmeng shrugged her shoulders and said, I'm really sorry for not meeting your family standards for marriage. Snake pinched Gu Mengmeng's little face and said, family means nothing to me. Gu Mengmeng's heart skipped a beat. She still could not learn to think before speaking and would always say something that would hurt others unintentionally. Apologizing would only make the atmosphere more awkward. Gu Mengmeng patted her butt and stood up. She turned back to look at Snake, who was still holding her hand and sitting at the same spot. She said, I'm hungry, accompany me to pluck some fruits. Chapter 558. There was someone sitting outside the cave. Gu Mengmeng glanced at him and felt that he looked familiar, but she could not recall who he was. Snake, on the other hand, completely ignored this person and walked past him without even glancing at him from the corner of his eyes. That person saw Snake and Gu Mengmeng coming out together, so he stood up and followed. Not only did Snake not slow down, he even walked faster and faster, obviously trying to shake off that person behind him. That person was neither angry nor anxious, he just followed until Snake stopped under a huge tree and looked up at the red fruits on the branches. He then stood beside Snake and looked up at the tree together with Snake. He stared at it for a long while in a daze, asking, What are you looking at? Snake ignored him and turned to ask Gu Mengmeng, Do you want to eat this? Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips and nodded as she looked at the fruits that were giving off an alluring glow. Snake then turned back to look at the person behind him and said coldly, Go up and pluck the fruits for me. That person was taken aback and frowned, Don't you have hands? Snakel supported Gu Mengmeng's but with one hand and protected her waist with the other. He shook Gu Mengmeng and said righteously, I have hands, but I'm busy, so you go. Gu Mengmeng nodded. That person seemed to be caught off guard and was stuffed with a mouthful of dog food. After holding it in for a long while, he only said fiercely, All right. He raised his leg and kicked that fruit tree. If there were no accidents, this fruit tree would let out a sad cry of being broken and then die. But there was an accident. Before his leg could reach the fruit tree, Snake raised his leg and sent him flying. The man clutched his chest and glared at Snake, asking, What now? Snake's face was cold and he said, Tumeng likes trees, don't kick them. The man pointed at Snake and clenched his teeth for a long time before finally squeezing out a sentence, You. Snake was expressionless as he walked to the man and kicked him, saying, Are you dead? If you're not dead, go and pick some fruits. Tumeng is hungry. The man was extremely aggrieved but he had no other choice. He could only walk to the side of the tree and transform into a half-orc. Just as he was about to swim up the tree, Snake stepped on his tail forcefully and the man cried out in pain. He turned around and glared at Snake. What now? Snake's face was still cold as he said, Tumeng hates sh*t, snakes and snakes that look like sh*t. Your original form is all three. Maintain your human form and climb up. Don't show any postures that will disgust Tumeng, or it will affect her appetite. The man was so angry that his face turned green. He pointed at Snake, then at Gu Mengmeng, before pointing at Snake again. I am not doing this anymore. If your female wants to eat the fruit, you can climb up and pluck it yourself. Snake curled his lips and said, It's rare for you to say something pleasant. Seeing that you're so good at talking, I've decided to help you. Huh? The man did not react in time and did not know that his unintentional, your female, had pleased Snake. He only felt a pain in his buttocks and then he flew up, yes, he flew up. Snake used a perfect arc to kick the man onto the tree. Looking at the man who was hanging on the tree branch like a rag doll and shouting at him, Snake revealed a, You're welcome, smile and said, Hurry and pluck the fruit. If you spoil Tumeng, I'll kill you. Snake's eyes lit up. Aside from the topic, on Valentine's Day, Snake and Gu Mengmeng tortured Wabi. This was still just a coincidence. The script had been saved a long time ago and the daily update 9000 just happened to be here. All coincidences were probably fate. Besides, there was no more update today. My babies don't have to wait anymore. It's Valentine's Day. Go out and have a date. Don't be distracted by reading novels. Tomorrow, I'll still be here waiting for you. Chapter 559. The man on the tree was infuriated. He plucked off a fruit and threw it at Snake. Snake caught it steadily and frowned. I want the biggest one at the top. The man waved his arms and legs in a comical manner. He looked like a character in a manga who was being abused. Gu Mengmeng pitied the innocent man. She held the fruit that was almost as big as her face with both hands. You don't have to go through so much trouble. This is good enough. Snake turned to look at Gu Mengmeng. He asked gently, do you like it? Gu Mengmeng nodded. She answered sweetly, yeah. Snake smiled in satisfaction. Then, he carried Gu Mengmeng and turned to leave. Before he left, he glared coldly at the man on the tree. If any of my fruit trees are damaged, I will throw you out of the Snake King Valley. Snake walked very quickly. Gu Mengmeng could no longer hear what the man on the tree was shouting. Is it all right to leave him here like that? That man had transformed just now. Although it was only for a short while, Gu Mengmeng could still recognize that he was Wabi-Ai, the one who had challenged Snake to a duel the day before and ended up being tortured. He looked like he was seriously injured and looked like he was about to turn into snake soup. And now, he was hanging on a tree. Snake frowned. Worried? Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips. I just saw that you two seem to be on good terms. Aren't you afraid that he will be angry and ignore you after you treat him like this? Snake laughed coldly. He rubbed Gu Mengmeng's head. With you by my side in the future, he is not important anymore. Gu Mengmeng was speechless. She felt like a new pet had replaced the old pet and received the owner's love. Then, when would there be a new pet to replace her, Tu Meng? How long have you known each other? Gu Mengmeng estimated the time she needed to be in charge. Snake stopped in his tracks. He seemed to be seriously recalling. After thinking for a long time, he said, I forgot. Wouldn't that be a matter of 1 or 2 years? Gu Mengmeng face-bombed. After all, he was once important to you. Shouldn't you remember our past relationship? I think that pile of *T looks quite fun. At least it can take more hits than me. It is at least a Nokia level. Do you want to consider? Snake's face was cold and his green eyes were filled with anger. He said, you want him? Gu Mengmeng waved her hands and said, no, I hate shit, snakes and snakes that look like shit. You know that. Snake nodded and kept his unhappy expression. If you want to play, then play me. I can take a beating too, so I should be more interesting than him. With that, he hooked Gu Mengmeng's chin lightly and brought her face closer to his. Moreover, don't you think that my face is much prettier than his? Gu Mengmeng nodded her head and flattered him. Beautiful, you are the most beautiful snake in the world. The corners of Snake's lips curled up and his eyes curved. He asked, compared to the wolf on your collarbone, who is prettier? Gu Mengmeng shut her mouth. She did not want to speak. If he told the truth, this fellow's rage would definitely soar, but if he told a lie, he would be unwilling. Chapter 560. Gu Mengmeng felt a chill down her spine and shook off the goosebumps on her body. Don't be so hardcore, we can still be friends. Snake's expression was calm and he did not comment. It was just eating a wolf, hardcore? Didn't he usually eat four-legged animals like this? Was there a difference? Snake's palm was huge and cold. When his fingertips touched Gu Mengmeng's smooth face, there was a strange feeling. It was as if an electric current was spreading from his fingertips to her heart. Every touch was a numbing sensation. Gu Mengmeng's face was as white as snow. It was very strange, but not annoying. Under his palm, her face looked very small. He caressed her face and felt the softness under his fingertips. It was so soft that it could make one's heart flutter. Gu Mengmeng brushed Snake's hand away. It's weird for you to look at me like this. You look like a wretched middle-aged uncle. Oh, no, you look like a wretched 1,000-year-old demon. Snake laughed out loud. He grabbed Gu Mengmeng's hand and placed it on his face. Have you ever seen such a good-looking 1,000-year-old demon? Gu Mengmeng shook her head. It's my first time seeing a 1,000-year-old living creature. There's no comparison. Snake tapped Gu Mengmeng's little head. Treasure it. You probably won't be able to find another 2,000-year-old demon in this world. Snake carried Gu Mengmeng to the waterfall. This was the place where Gu Mengmeng had her stomach pumped when she was poisoned by his violence. Snake placed Gu Mengmeng down and took the red fruit from her hands. He washed it in the water beside the waterfall before passing it to Gu Mengmeng. Eat. Gu Mengmeng did not stand on ceremony. She took the fruit and started munching on it. Snake looked at her eating with a gentle gaze. He always felt that it was strange. Why did the food in her hands always look so delicious? He had eaten the fruit on that tree before. Although he could not remember how long ago it was, he definitely had eaten it before. Because in those long and boring years, he had tried to eat some strange things to poison himself to end his boring life. Unfortunately, there was nothing more poisonous than his own snake venom in this world. If he did not even have any impression of the taste, there should not be anything special about it. But, Snake stepped forward and bit the other half of the fruit that Gu Mengmeng was eating. Looking at her eyes that widened in shock, Snake smiled and bit off half of the fruit with a loud crunch. Then, he chewed on it carefully. Juicy and sweet. It was a little crispy, not as tasty as the animal bone. However, it was quite delicious. Why hadn't he noticed this before? Gu Mengmeng put down the fruit she was holding in a daze. She looked at the fruit that he had bitten off and complained, there were so many on that tree. If you wanted to eat, why didn't you ask that lump of sh*t to help you pluck one more? Snake laughed out of boredom and replied as a matter of fact, the one in your hand looks more delicious. The one in your mouth looks more delicious, but it's a pity that there's poison on my teeth. If you touch it, it might kill you. So I have no choice but to take a step back and eat the one in your hand. Gu Mengmeng twirled the fruit. The area where Snake had bitten had indeed turned black. Her face falling, Gu Mengmeng asked, "Can I still eat this fruit?" Chapter 561. Gu Mengmeng sighed. She had no other choice but to break the fruit in her hand into a few pieces and feed them to Snake one piece at a time. Snake ate with gusto and looked like he was in a good mood. Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips and asked tentatively, "Snake, mmm?" It was the first time Gu Mengmeng called his name on her own accord, and it was also the first time he felt that his name sounded so nice. Gu Mengmeng fiddled with her fingers and asked softly, "You promised to help me save my sons, but why haven't I seen them?" Snake's face turned cold and he looked sideways at Gu Mengmeng and asked, "Are you thinking of your wild men?" Gu Mengmeng sighed and said, "How many times do I have to say it? He is my son, my biological son, not a wild man." Snake was displeased and frowned, saying, "I have said before, other than me, all the males around you are wild men. If you retort again, I will eat them up." Gu Mengmeng was helpless and forced herself to hold back her explanation. She watched as Snake stubbornly labeled her sons as wild men, and said helplessly, "Then where are they? How are they now?" Snake's face was cold, but he could not stand the worry in Gu Mengmeng's eyes. He slowly said, "With me around, she will not dare to act rashly." "Don't worry." Gu Mengmeng asked, "Who?" Snake said, "Don't you know who kidnapped your sons?" Gu Mengmeng was silent for a moment. "Cole. Ellie?" Snake thought for a moment and said, "Oh, so her name is Ellie." Gu Mengmeng said, "You don't even know her name and you dare to guarantee that she will listen to you and not hurt my sons?" Snake smiled lightly and with the confidence and calmness of a person in a superior position. He said, "She is a snake beast and I am the Snake King. In this world, there is no snake that has the guts to disobey my orders. Obedience is their innate nature." Gu Mengmeng took 2 steps forward timidly and pulled Snake's arm, saying, "Then, ask her to return my sons to me." Snake snorted and said, "Do you really think your wild men will be safer by my side than by Ellie's?" Gu Mengmeng was stunned as she recalled the scene of Snake torturing Elvis. Elvis was a 5th-level orc after all, but he could not withstand a single blow from Snake. If that tail had landed on Huda and the rest, Gu Mengmeng did not doubt that the 4 buns would have been exposed on the spot. Snake rubbed Gu Mengmeng's head and said, "Not mentioning them in front of me is the best way for you to protect them. The next time I see you worrying about them, I'll eat them to get rid of any future troubles." Gu Mengmeng shook her head and waved her hands. No, I'm not worried at all." Snake raised his eyebrow and said, "Mengmeng too." Ha, ha ha. Gu Mengmeng grinned, her face full of helplessness. Snake turned his head and said plainly, "So ugly." Gu Mengmeng sighed helplessly and thought to herself, "Ugly, hurry up and return my son and husband to me. I promise to immediately leave the Snake King Valley in a mellow manner and never pollute your eyes again." Unfortunately, Gu Coward only dared to think about it in her heart. She did not have the guts to say it out loud. Snake stood there quietly for a long time, until Gu Mengmeng almost suspected that the person standing in front of her was a statue. Rubbing her eyes, Gu Mengmeng turned her head to stretch her neck. Chapter 562. Huh. Gu Mengmeng's mind went blank for a moment and she did not manage to catch Snake's words. Snake was impatient as he frowned and said coldly, "Why aren't you looking at me anymore?" Gu Mengmeng blinked her eyes and said, My neck is sore, so I changed my posture to move around." Snake said, "When you move your neck, your eyes should be looking at me." Gu Mengmeng was taken aback as she imagined herself focusing her gaze on a point and then turning her neck. Why did she look like a possessed turtle prime minister? Seeing Gu Mengmeng burst out laughing, Snake's slight awkwardness also dissipated. He turned to face Gu Mengmeng and asked, "What are you laughing at?" Gu Mengmeng waved her hands and said, "Look." As she said that, she did what she imagined and then laughed out loud. Snake looked at the mischievous Gu Mengmeng with a layer of warmth and gentleness in his dark green and cold eyes. He said, "So ugly." Gu Mengmeng nodded and said, Right? It's too ugly, ha ha ha." Snake carried Gu Mengmeng back into his arms and said, "Even if it's ugly, you still have to look at me." Huh. Gu Mengmeng was taken aback. What kind of twisted obsession was this? Gu Mengmeng deliberately turned her head and said, "I have to look at the road when I walk and the bowl when I eat. How can I always look at you?" Snake raised his head and said, "I will carry you when we walk and feed you when we eat. Your eyes just have to look at me." Gu Mengmeng asked, "Why?" Snake said, "Just now, you were the one who stared at me first." Gu Mengmeng thought for a moment and said, "Yeah, of course I have to look at you when I talk to you." Snake said, "Then why did you stop looking at me halfway?" Gu Mengmeng. "What do you mean by halfway?" "My neck is getting sore from looking at you acting like a statue all the time," Snake said in a commanding tone. "Look at me, I will allow it. But you are not allowed to stop looking halfway." He had thought that she was so entranced because the back of his head was particularly attractive, so he maintained his posture and did not dare to move for her to see. But this girl actually stopped looking halfway. Aggrieved, too aggrieved. The Snake King could not take this lying down. Gu Mengmeng shook her head helplessly. Sometimes, it was really difficult to communicate with people who were too different in age, especially those who were thousands of years apart. That was simply a gulf, do you understand? Snake, stop right there and speak clearly. That pile of sh*t. Wabi finally came down from the tree and chased after them. She took 2 quick steps and stood in front of Snake, pointing at him. "What did you say just now? If she falls asleep, what are you going to do to me?" Snake was displeased and didn't like people disturbing his time with Gu Mengmeng. He ignored Wabi-Ai and just carried Gu Mengmeng away. Snake, 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 long, snake, 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 Mengmeng, snake. Come, let us have a good fight today and see who will be the one to throw who out of the Snake King Valley. Gu Mengmeng, Gu Gu Snake Gu, Snake. S saying. Snake Gu 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 Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng could not understand the situation and answered instinctively, I can't feel the beast pressure either. Snake seemed to be relieved. He pressed the back of Gu Mengmeng's head with his hand and placed her little face on his shoulder. He whispered into her ear, if you feel uncomfortable, you have to tell me. Gu Mengmeng nodded. Chapter 563. Gu Mengmeng could not help but moan softly. Then, the world became very quiet. Even the wind did not dare to blow the leaves. What's wrong? Snake lifted Gu Mengmeng's chin gently and scrutinized her slightly pale face. He frowned and felt a tightness in his chest. Looking at that pile of **T, he felt more and more irritated. He snapped, didn't you say you could not feel the beast pressure? Gu Mengmeng shook her head helplessly. Are you releasing your beast pressure? I thought you were going to destroy the earth. Snake was amused by Gu Mengmeng's words. He glanced at Wabi-Ai, who was paralyzed on the ground. He ignored him and walked away. Gu Mengmeng was a little worried. Snake stopped and looked at Gu Mengmeng seriously. Do you want to eat snakes? Gu Mengmeng shook her head. No, no, Snake felt a little regretful. He turned back to look at Wabi-Ai. The peak of 5th level. It should be very nourishing. Gu Mengmeng smiled embarrassedly. I am weak and have little luck. I can't handle such nourishment. Snake did not comment. He nodded and carried Gu Mengmeng back into the cave. The next few days could be considered to be peaceful. Wabi-Ai seemed to have been shaken quite badly that time. Hence, he did not appear at Snake's cave for a few days. The food that Leah made would be delivered to Snake's cave by the little snakes. Every day, there would be different kinds of food. Everything was very exquisite. Gu Mengmeng knew that Leah was using this method to tell her that he and Elvis were fine and there was no need to worry. But as for the little wolves, she wondered how they were doing now. Snake said that Ellie did not dare to go against the Snake King's words. This was the innate nature of their race. She did not know whether it was true or not. But she did not dare to pester him any further. She could only convince herself that Snake would not lie to her. About half a month passed. Gu Mengmeng thought that Snake would let her and Elvis leave with the little wolves once he was sick of it. But this fellow became more and more clingy. When she slept, he would sit beside her and watch. When she ate, he would sit beside her and watch. Even when she was defecating, he sat nearby and watched. Sometimes, when Gu Mengmeng was really bored, she would throw small stones at each other for fun. She would throw one out and use the other to hit the stone that was thrown out first. Regardless of whether she could hit it or not, she would chase after it to pick it up and throw it again. Snake was also watching this boring game from the side, and he was enjoying it very much. The one who broke Snake's way of life of viewing Gu Mengmeng as a VR projection was the revived Wabi-Ai. This time, he did not challenge Snake. Hey, little female. Are you the new sacred maiden of the Snake King Valley? Gu Mengmeng pointed at her own nose and looked at Wabi-Ai. Saintess? Me? Wabi-Ai nodded and said, I heard that you replaced Ellie and became the most respected female in the Snake King Valley. Gu Mengmeng turned to look at Snake awkwardly and said, Really? Why haven't I heard of this before? Snake went forward and hugged Gu Mengmeng in his arms. His gaze was sinister and unpredictable. He said, My female is naturally the most respected. Not just the Snake King Valley, there is no other female more respected than you in the entire beast world. Gu Mengmeng sighed and said, Great King, can you stop fooling around? At your age, not to mention being my grandfather, you can even be my ancestor. I don't dare to claim connections with you. Chapter 564. Gu Mengmeng shrank her neck and did not have the guts to say, "You are so smart." She laughed awkwardly and said, "I am not from the snake tribe. It is not good to make me a saintess, right?" Snake raised his brows and said, "Why is my female not from the snake tribe?" Gu Mengmeng's face fell and she said, "Great king, you should know your limits when joking. I am a married woman, you will be punished by the heavens for teasing me like this." Snakel chuckled and said, "What kind of divine punishment? Will it be lightning from the sky or fire from the god of fire? Or else, cut open my chest and take out my gallbladder?" Gu Mengmeng twitched her lips and let out a disdainful "eh." She thought to herself, "I have been waiting for you to release me from the Snake King Valley as an old palace made when you pardoned the world. If I become a saintess, would I still be able to leave? I am not a fool if I don't do it." Wabi-Ai walked forward and placed his arm over Gu Mengmeng's shoulder. He smiled and said, "I am younger than him by a full 200 years. Although I am not as powerful as him now, I can't guarantee that I will improve by leaps and bounds after a few rounds of dual cultivation with you. When that time comes, I will replace him as the Snake King and ensure that your position as a saintess will last for generations to come. How about that?" Gu Mengmeng was disgusted and she stared at that pile of sh*t with a look of disdain. Snake's face darkened to the extreme and he really wanted to just release his beast pressure and squash Wabi-Ai to death. But thinking of her pale and uncomfortable face the previous time, Snake forced himself to bear with it. He only reached out one hand and grabbed Wabi-Ai's wrist, twisting his hand behind his back in an anti-ergonomic way. He said in a cold voice, "I told you before, Tu Meng hates snakes, hates sh*t, hates snakes that look like sh*t. You still dare to use your dirty hand to touch her, what if you hurt her?" Although Wabi-Ai was a snake, the distribution of his bones in human form was not much different from humans. So Snake's hair was still very painful for him. But with his ability to withstand blows from battling with Snake for the past 800 years, this level of pain was probably just a joke. So he did not care much and continued grumbling, "Sigh, don't the Snake King Valley Saintess always choose powerful males to help them break through the third-level boundary? Why can't I touch Tu Meng?" The veins on Snake's forehead popped out and his temples throbbed. His pupils darkened at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was as if his green pupils were filled with poison. "Just one look from him was enough to kill you. Tu Meng is my special title. Are you even worthy of calling me that?" As Snake spoke, he threw away Wabi-Ai's arm and turned to clamp down on his jaw, forcing his mouth open and reaching for his tongue. Wabi-Ai was a snake and had the nature of a snake. After fighting with Snake for 800 years, Wabi-Ai was probably even clearer than Snake himself about when Snake was just entertaining himself and when he was really killing in rage. He knew that Snake was really angry now. If he did not use his trump card, he might really die in Snake's hands. So he suddenly transformed into a giant python and used the change in his body size to break free from Snake's restraint. Then, with lightning speed, he attacked Snake first to gain the upper hand. Snake laughed coldly. Gu Mengmeng could even faintly see his hair fluttering in the wind. It was the kind of entrance scene of a martial arts leader. Chapter 565. Gu Mengmeng stealthily took a step back, then another, then, Snake found out. With a flick of his snake tail, Snake threw Wabi-Ai far away. As he sprinted towards Gu Mengmeng, he transformed into his human form. By the time he reached Gu Mengmeng, he was already that perfect and flawless snake. His dark green eyes glowed with a faint light, clearly still angry. He wrapped his arms around Gu Mengmeng's waist and didn't grab her wrist, because he knew that he might not be able to control his strength precisely after the battle. Her wrist was so thin, if he exerted even a little force, it would break. Although she would look good breaking her wrist, the process might be a little painful. He didn't like it when she was in pain, hurt, frowning and despondent, and even more so when she was deep in thought, she wasn't thinking about him. Where to? Especially when he didn't like the way she always gave off the feeling that she wanted to leave his side. Was she the same as that woman? She desperately wanted to return to that world, while Gu Mengmeng desperately wanted to return to her partners and children. Why couldn't they return to him? The dangerous aura emanating from Snake was too strong. Looking at the almost crippled Wabi behind him, who would dare to defy him at this moment? Gu Mengmeng gave a timid smile and said, I saw that the two of you were having a good time sparring, so I made some space for you. Oh. Snake laughed coldly and asked, where do you intend to make space for yourself? Gu Mengmeng kept quiet. She didn't have the courage to say, of course the further the better. Snake's head tilted 45 degrees downwards, his gaze unfathomable as he looked at Wabi, who was struggling to move. Don't worry, with me around, no one can hurt you, and no one can touch you. Yes, 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 yes. Gu Mengmeng smiled apologetically. Seeing Wabi on the verge of death yet still fuming, she broke out in cold sweat. Once a person was nervous, their stomach would hurt. That twisting pain instantly made Gu Mengmeng unable to straighten her back. F***K, she was becoming more and more terrified. She was just watching others fight and she was already so scared at the start. Gu Mengmeng cursed herself in her heart while shaking her head helplessly. But, why did this feel so familiar? Gu Mengmeng lowered her head, instantly dumbfounded. His face first turned pale, then red, matching the color of the blood flowing down from between his legs. Aunt, you really are my dear aunt. No matter where I am, your concern is always so. It's impossible to ignore. Snake felt something in his body stirring restlessly, and the closer he got to Gu Mengmeng, the more obvious it became. When the blood between her legs trickled down, the crimson color instantly stung his eyes. Damn it. Did he accidentally injure her when he was fighting with Wabi? He was already guarding against Wabi from getting close to her. Was she the one who injured him? I was too focused and accidentally bumped into it. Snake's face was ghastly pale and he wanted to lift Gu Mengmeng's dress. Gu Mengmeng was shocked. She covered her dress with both hands and said, what are you doing? Check the wound, Snake replied with a frown. Gu Mengmeng blushed and stuttered. She tried her best to protect her dress and said, that. I'm fine, I'm really fine. Don't lift my dress. You will be punished for teasing a married woman. Snake gritted his teeth and said coldly, I am not afraid. Chapter 566. Ha. Snakel sneered and ignored Gu Mengmeng's resistance. He directly carried her up and walked like the wind. He did not look at Gu Mengmeng again and only said coldly, you look for Elvis when you're sad and Leah when you're injured, then when will you think of looking for me? Gu Mengmeng was completely dumbfounded. She had been breastfeeding after giving birth so her period had not come. Later on, the children were given complementary foods but they were not really weaned. She would always squeeze out some milk for the children to drink once a day to supplement their nutrition. The real weaning of the wolf pups was when she participated in that beauty pageant. Maybe it was because she was too busy and messed up her biological clock so great aunt did not come. She had almost forgotten about this matter. Who knew that it would make such a grand and dazzling appearance today? But, it was just great aunt. Why was Snake so angry as if he had been cuckolded? Before Gu Mengmeng could understand what was going on, Snake had already brought her back to the cave. There was a beast skin laid on the ground and he placed her on it. His pupils were in a vertical state with only a slit. She could not tell how angry he was. Gu Mengmeng also could not figure out why Snake was so angry. Was it because she wanted to see Leah because of her period or because Wabi's challenge today had angered him? This Wabi was in a state where he would challenge anyone he could move for the past 800 years. Gu Mengmeng felt that it was unlikely that he could come up with any new tricks to anger Snake. Was it because she wanted to see Leah? Was there a need to be so angry? That. Gu Mengmeng carefully broke the silence. Snake turned around with a sharp gaze. Seeing Gu Mengmeng shrinking her neck in fright, he turned his head away again. He felt aggrieved and his chest was burning, but his tone was much gentler. Later on, when you don't bleed so much, I'll feed you some of my blood to replenish your energy. Gu Mengmeng smiled stiffly. Great King, have you forgotten? Your blood is highly toxic and does not have the same effect as the black chicken white phoenix pill. Snake glanced sideways. His pupils were thicker than before. Maybe, he was not so angry anymore. You have the antibodies in your body and I will detoxify you. It's only nourishing, it's not fatal. Snake said, do you know how many people dream of obtaining the blood of the Beast King? Gu Mengmeng looked at Snake's "You wicked slave, hurry up and thank me" expression and was at a loss for words. She hesitated for a moment before continuing, I'm just having my period. I don't think there's a need to supplement me like this, right? Great Aunt? Snake frowned and his face froze for a moment. Then, he suddenly recalled the relevant scenes of his mother Beast in heat from the depths of his memory. Awkward, Gu Mengmeng could almost see crows flying over Snake's head. Snake cleared his throat and said, female estrus is an important matter. Also needs to be replenished. With that, he stood up abruptly and paced around on the spot. Then, he walked back and looked at Gu Mengmeng condescendingly. He said sternly, looking for Leah the moment you're in heat, are you in a hurry to mate? Gu Mengmeng held her forehead and said, Leah knows how to make sanitary pads. I want sanitary pads. Snake was stunned again and did not say anything. He just turned around and walked out. You can't blame him, you really can't blame him. Chapter 567. Snake raised his head and shot a look at the colorful snakes guarding the entrance. Immediately, a few little snakes slithered out. Not long after, Leo was brought over with a huge pot in his hands. Even from afar, Gu Mengmeng could smell a gingery scent. Li's state did not seem like he was being imprisoned by someone at all. Instead, he looked like someone who cooked a pot of soup at the entrance of the cave and then brought it in. Snake knew that Gu Mengmeng was afraid of the cold, different from him. So even if the fire would dry out the cave and make him uncomfortable, he still kept the fire burning for 24 hours. So after Leah came in, he placed the pot on the fire pile with ease. Then, he said as he fiddled with it, here, this is the only dish that Elvis can bring out. You haven't had it since your confinement, right? Gu Mengmeng's heart warmed. Even if it was just boiling ginger slices in water, Elvis's strict requirements for the thickness of the ginger slices were always the same. In order to cook the taste that she had praised, he was almost to the point of nitpicking. Her heart was always warm. There's ginger here? Gu Mengmeng took over the small bowl that Leah handed to her. She took a sip and sighed, ah, I'm alive again. Leah smiled gently and rubbed Gu Mengmeng's little head gently. Then, he turned to look at Snake and asked, can I hunt here? Snake frowned and said, didn't I provide all the food for you? If you're not full, then go hungry. Settle Tuming's matter first. She wants her sanitary pad. Hurry and hand it over, don't force me to do it. Leah held back his laughter and glanced sideways at Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng looked back at Leah with an expression of, I know how speechless you are. Leah replied with an expression of, you still understand me. The two of them did not say a word and just looked at each other with a faint smile. But they could read the meaning in each other's eyes. Snake felt frustrated for no reason. This was the reason why he did not allow Gu Mengmeng to see Elvis and Leah. There seemed to be a strange atmosphere between them, isolating him from them. Snake's face turned cold and he said, I don't want to kill you on Tuming's account. But my patience is limited. Hurry up and hand over the sanitary pad and get lost. Leah sighed, as if he was not afraid of Snake in the slightest. He clicked his tongue and said, every time you send the prey here, they are all minced into pieces. Those beast skins can't even be used anymore. I need fresh, clean, and soft animal skin to make a sanitary pad for Meng Meng. So please allow me to hunt here. Snake waved his hand impatiently and said, "Up to you. Get lost, I already want to kill someone." Leah shrugged his shoulders helplessly and said, "If you want Meng Meng to accept you, you have to get used to getting along with me and Elvis. Meng Meng cares a lot about her family. If you always show that you will hurt her family, she will not like you." The veins on Snake's forehead throbbed as he stared at Leah with narrowed eyes. Snake did not release his aura, but Leah, who was under the hierarchy, could not help but feel a chill down his spine. Then, Leah turned around and ran, directly burrowing into Gu Mengmeng's arms. In his half-orc form, he curled up behind Gu Mengmeng, wrapping his furry big tail around Gu Mengmeng's waist. He peeked out half his head from Gu Mengmeng's shoulder and complained pitifully, "Sob sob sob, Meng, I'm so scared." Aside from the topic, author, Leah, you are after all the great witch doctor of Saint Nazir, the ninth highness of Sauter. Can you have some face? Where's your pride? Where's your pride? Leah sneered, "Want face in front of Meng? Want pride? Want pride? Are you stupid or am I stupid?" Chapter 568. Snake paused, feeling as if he was being framed. Gu Mengmeng couldn't help but laugh at Snake's infuriated look. She shook her head and sighed, "Leah has always been timid, don't scare him." As Gu Mengmeng said, she pulled Leah into her arms from behind and patted his back lightly, "You drama queen, stop acting. Snake won't really do anything to you." Leah felt extremely comfortable being coaxed by Gu Mengmeng. He squinted his eyes at Snake, his sly smile carrying a hint of provocation and complacency. Seeing how Snake's green eyes were about to spit fire, his mood was exceptionally good. Raising his head, he kissed Gu Mengmeng's little chin, then stood up and gently hugged Gu Mengmeng in his arms, saying, "All right, I'll listen to you. I won't fool around anymore." Lee's hugs were always gentle and warm. Gu Mengmeng hugged Leah back, then asked, "Is your body okay? Can you hunt?" Gu Mengmeng knew that although Snake had no intention of taking Elvis and Lee's lives, he still used snake venom on them to weaken their bodies just in case, so that they could not escape with Gu Mengmeng. Leah raised his brows, gently hooked Gu Mengmeng's chin, and said with slight anger, "In your heart, am I so weak that I can't even deal with a mere wild beast?" Gu Mengmeng smiled in a fawning manner, saying, No, I'm just worried about you." Leah pinched Gu Mengmeng's little nose and shook it lightly, saying, "Don't worry blindly, lie down and wait for me to come back, don't move. If I come back later and see this place like a slaughterhouse, I won't let you off, understand?" Gu Mengmeng nodded, saying, "Yes." Leah hugged Gu Mengmeng for a while more before standing up to walk out. When he passed by Snake, he gave him a bright smile and said plainly, "In the future, you must get along well with Elvis and me, okay? Or else, you will be the one at a disadvantage, because Mengmeng's heart is biased towards us." "All the best." Snake just clenched his fists, his body stiff as he stared at Leah, swishing his big tail as he walked out of the cave step by step. Gu Mengmeng chuckled, "Stop staring, he's just like that. I mean no harm." Snake turned around and looked at Gu Mengmeng. "He threatened you." Gu Mengmeng blinked her eyes and looked at Snake as if she had lost her memory. Snake stepped forward and said, "He said he won't let you off. Why aren't you angry?" Gu Mengmeng smiled sweetly. "Why should I be angry?" Snake's face was cold as he said, "Every time I threaten you to eat them up, you always argue with me." Gu Mengmeng said, "How can that be the same?" What Leah meant by not letting me off was probably that he would not allow me to move around before my period ended. I would have to lie on the bed for 7 whole days. Life was hopeless. What difference was there between me and a salted fish? But I know that his punishments are carried out on the basis of loving me and protecting me. He and Elvis would never do anything to make me sad. Snake frowned and asked, "If I really eat them, will you be sad?" Gu Mengmeng kept her smile and said seriously, "My family is my life. I will fight to the death with anyone who dares to touch my family." Chapter 569. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and asked, "Then do you want to be my grandfather or great-grandfather?" Snake's face was cold. The atmosphere was instantly destroyed by Gu Mengmeng, but for some reason, he did not feel angry. Instead, he felt that this little girl who always talked back and found trouble with him was extremely pleasing to the eye even when she was mocking him. Snorting, Snake used a gentle tone that even he could not understand and said, "Are you talking about my age again?" Gu Mengmeng did not deny it and just smiled. "I have no choice. You are too perfect in other aspects. This is the only thing I can use to attack you." Perfect. Snake's eyes were fixed on Gu Mengmeng and he was momentarily dazed. His life was so long, boring and unbearable. He did not know how others saw him because he felt that all the lives in this world were too boring and too mediocre. But he himself knew how much he hated himself and how much he wished that he could disappear. But what could he do? There was actually no one in this world who could kill him. Day after day of anticipating death, even his hatred towards this life was slowly being erased. But she said, he was perfect. What kind of expression is that? Gu Mengmeng gave a look of disdain. Don't tell me that. Oh, this is not the life I want. I will beat you up. Snake chuckled. You can't beat me. Gu Mengmeng raised her head and said indignantly, who said that? I am the mighty messenger of the beast deity. Snake mimicked Leah and rubbed Gu Mengmeng's little head. The corners of his lips curled up. Yeah, it did feel good. Meeting her proud and clear big eyes, Snake said calmly, there are two messengers of the beast deity, but the beast king is only me. Gu Mengmeng smacked her lips. See, you are showing off your perfect life again. Sigh, all right, mighty beast king, you are the most honorable. Snake seemed to be deliberately teasing Gu Mengmeng. He tilted his head and looked at her with disdain. He said word by word, oh, this is not the life I want. Gu Mengmeng waved her fist and punched Snake's chest. With a face full of anger and laughter, she said, Sigh, do you know that you are really annoying like this? Snake smiled and asked, why? Gu Mengmeng said, do you know about celebrities? Snake nodded. In his memory, the mother beast had mentioned it to his father and other partners when she was reminiscing about the past countless times. Gu Mengmeng continued, in this world, there's a type of people called the second generation of celebrities. Because their parents are celebrities, they receive the attention of others the moment they are born and enjoy all kinds of privileges. Entering the entertainment industry was also an illusion of having deep connections. Green lights and lightning flashes along the way. Then, when you were earning money that some people couldn't even earn in their entire lives, while counting the money, you would say, oh, this isn't the life I wanted at all. I hope everyone remembers me because of my hard work, and not because I'm XXX's son or daughter. If not for your parents being famous, who do you think you are? It's the most disgusting to take advantage of someone and still act like a loser. Snake did not quite understand. He tilted his head and looked at Gu Mengmeng. I'm not a celebrity. Chapter 570. Blessed by nature. Snake toyed with Gu Mengmeng's adjective. Gu Mengmeng nodded and said, of course. Do you know? No one dared to provoke my hubby before he mated. After he mated, he immediately rose to the 4th level. Yeah, the 4th level might not be much in your eyes. But it's already very impressive outside, do you understand? Snake laughed in disdain. The 4th level was considered trash. Gu Mengmeng rolled her eyes at Snake in disdain and continued, when I was trapped in solder by Cole, my hubby, a 4th level beast, led Leah, a 3rd level beast and the warriors in the tribe to fight with Cole and the rest. Solder had a total of 3 5th level beasts. In the end, they were still beaten down by my hubby. Moreover, my hubby even leveled up during the battle. Although he did not say it, I know that it was not easy to level up. I don't know how many times he was on the brink of death, how many times he clenched his teeth and how many times he crawled out from a pile of corpses to level up. Snake laughed coldly and said, if he couldn't handle it, it only proves that he was too weak. Gu Mengmeng hissed and looked at Snake in dissatisfaction. Snake shrugged and said, he was originally weak. Not to mention me, he couldn't even defeat Wabi. Gu Mengmeng pouted and said, that's because you poisoned him. Snake did not feel that there was a problem at all and answered honestly, he couldn't resist the poison because he didn't have the ability. Gu Mengmeng clenched her teeth and really wanted to bite Snake to death. But thinking of the poison in his body, Gu Mengmeng held back. Smacking her lips, Gu Mengmeng continued, I wanted to praise you but you don't look like you need it. Forget it, I won't talk to you anymore in case I die of anger. Snake was taken aback. He cleared his throat and his gaze drifted to the side. With a guilty look, he said, he can't defeat Wabi because Wabi is too strong, not because he is too weak. After all, Wabi is an opponent that I personally trained for 800 years. If he were to be placed outside, no one would be able to defeat him. Trained, when Gu Mengmeng heard this keyword, her body could not help but tremble. She suddenly felt like laughing and her eyes lit up. Oh, no wonder Wabi wanted Snake to give him an explanation the moment he saw her. Just thinking about it makes me a little excited. The image, was probably matcha-flavored poop? Gu Mengmeng twitched her lips, her interest instantly waning and she did not continue thinking about it. So. Snake looked at Gu Mengmeng from the corner of his eye, his expression saying, come and flatter me. Gu Mengmeng chuckled. As a reward for her wild imagination, Gu Mengmeng nodded her head and continued, but my hubby is so valiant, majestic, brave and extraordinary. Gu Mengmeng wanted to use a few more adjectives, but when she saw the increasingly impatient expression on Snake's face, she held back and continued, males can't even take one blow from you. Tell me, if you aren't blessed by the heavens, then what are you? You're like a pay-to-win warrior in a game. Not only do you have top-notch equipment and an awesome ID, but you also have a cheat code. Snake's smile stiffened as he listened. Although he did not understand a lot of the words, but, were they praising him? Why did it sound so awkward? Looking at her serious face, she did not look like she was fooling him, but, the more he listened, the more he felt something was wrong. Chapter 571. Snake did not look back at Gu Meng's words because Leah had already returned. He knew that Lee's last action at the door was a demonstration to him. He had never cared about this kind of opportunistic demonstration and provocation in the past 1,000 years. But this time, he clearly learned his lesson. Because he said, in the future, you must get along well with Elvis and me. Or else, you will be the one at a disadvantage, because Gu Meng's heart is biased towards us. In the future. This life that was going to be so long seemed to have become less terrible because of this word. Tuming's heart was always biased towards them. Then did that mean that he was at least in her heart? Although he felt depressed that he was not the one being biased towards, but at the same time, he also felt a little good, she already had him in her heart, right? Even her partner and beast pet could tell, but she did not notice at all. She even asked him if he wanted to be a grandfather or a great-grandfather. Idiot, he was, blessed by the heavens, a bug. Leah held a few pieces of tanned beast skin in his hands, which carried a faint smell of blood. It was not strong and could not cover up the sweet arousal smell on Gu Meng's body, but it still could not escape Snake's sensitive nose. Frowning, Snake expressed his dissatisfaction towards the piece of beast skin in Lee's hands. How could there be other smells on Tuming's body? That was a stain. Leah sneered and said, you also know that your prey in the Snake King Valley is not up to standard? My Gu Meng has never used such a low-quality sanitary pad before. Leah swayed his tail exaggeratedly and walked to sit in front of Gu Meng with his legs crossed. He then turned back to look at Snake and said, if it's convenient, call Elvis over. Gu Meng's stomach is not feeling well now and needs a warm hug. Snake's pupils turned vertical and revealed a murderous aura. His body was cold and could never be warmed up. He did not feel anything in the past, but now it had become a weakness that he could not mention. Ever since Gu Mengmeng fell sick the last time, Leah had unintentionally said, "Your body is too cold and will worsen Gu Mengmeng's condition." After that, he did not dare to hug Gu Mengmeng in the cave anymore. Every night, he would sit not far away and watch her sleep. Even though he knew that there were colorful snakes guarding the door, he didn't dare to close his eyes for fear that someone would steal her away while he was asleep. If she was in his arms, he would be able to sleep peacefully, but his body was too cold, so every morning, he would pull Gu Mengmeng out of the cave to play. He clearly liked the shade, but he purposely exposed himself to the sun. He only dared to hug her in his arms when his body had warmed up. Every single cell in his body was screaming in discomfort, but he was, damn it, enjoying this feeling. Now, this damn fox actually dared to use this matter to provoke him? Clenching his fists, he glared at the fox who was laughing recklessly. The venom on his fangs had already begun to secrete, but that damned fox still had a look of, "I like it when you can't stand me and can't kill me" on his face. Be nice to each other. Her heart is biased towards us. Snake deeply felt that his dignity as a beast king was being trampled on. He was furious and wanted to kill someone, but what resonated with him was actually a warm current spreading from his chest that had been sealed in ice for thousands of years. Chapter 572. Before Elvis entered the cave, he already felt a wave of heat. Although the poison in his body made him weak, but if he was facing Gu Mengmeng, he still had the strength to do some things. Elvis smiled helplessly. He could only see her in this cowardly state of a prisoner. But the moment he smelled her fragrance, his mind was filled with scenes of them touching each other's ears and temples. After entering the cave, he realized that the scene was a little strange. Leah sat cross-legged beside Gu Mengmeng, looking at Snake with a sneaky expression. Snake's murderous aura made Lee's hair stand on end, but Leah acted as if he could not feel it. That furry tail of his swaying was clearly a very normal action, but when combined with the atmosphere, it felt like he was provoking Snake no matter how one looked at it. Gu Mengmeng's expression did not look too good. Lying on the beast's skin, she smiled when she saw Elvis. She called out weakly, "Hubby." Elvis's heart melted into a puddle of water. Not seeing her for the past few days, the suffocating and maniacal feeling of wanting to destroy everything was shattered by her calling him hubby. Taking 2 steps forward, he hugged Gu Mengmeng in his arms. "Are you feeling uncomfortable again?" Gu Mengmeng nodded. Feeling a little wronged, she said coquettishly, "At the start, I only felt a little stomach ache, but now I don't even feel like saying anything." Elvis kissed Gu Mengmeng's forehead. "It's all right, don't say anything if you don't feel like it. I will accompany you." Gu Mengmeng nodded and nestled in Elvis's arms. Elvis turned back to look at Leah. "Where's the sanitary pad? Why didn't you pat it for her?" Leah shrugged. "Mengmeng doesn't allow me to lift her skirt." With that, Leah turned back to look at Snake with a grin. Mengmeng said she wouldn't let him lift it either. The veins on Snake's forehead twitched as he calculated the chances of him rushing over and swallowing this damn fox in one gulp before framing Elvis. Elvis chuckled. Even if he was such a useless hubby, he still felt blissful to be given such a unique reliance by her. Reaching under Gu Mengmeng's skirt, Elvis smiled in understanding. He turned back to look at Leah, then at Snake, asking, "Snakes, shouldn't there be snake sloughs?" Snake nodded his head in reply. Elvis continued, "I heard that the snake's skin is light and breathable, very suitable for females to make clothes." Snake nodded again. Actually, he had long wanted to use his snake skin to make a set of clothes for Gu Mengmeng. But he knew that she was afraid of snakes, so he avoided showing his original form in front of her as much as possible. When he was angered by Wabi-I and could not help but transform into his original form to teach him a lesson, Snake did not even dare to look her in the eye, afraid that he would see repulsion and disgust in her eyes. So he had been restraining himself from using his snake skin to make clothes for Gu Mengmeng, even though he believed she would look very beautiful in it. Elvis nodded his head and said, "There are so many snakes in your Snake King Valley, can you find me 2 snake sloughs?" About, this wide will do. Snake looked at Elvis's measurements and frowned. Without saying a word, he turned around and walked out. Chapter 573. Seeing that Snake had walked far away, Gu Mengmeng grumbled softly, "How can I bring it up? Didn't I get poisoned after biting Snake the other time? When Snake brought me to the waterfall to have my stomach pumped, my underwear was washed away by the water. I wanted to look for you, but Snake did not give me a chance at all. What should I do? I am also in despair. I can't possibly tell Snake, 'Hi, man, please give me 2 pieces of beast skin, I want to make underwear.'" Elvis felt deeply guilty and hugged Gu Mengmeng. "I'm sorry, Xiao Meng. It's all because I was too weak and could not protect you properly. I am clearly the first partner, but I could not protect your position in the family. I have let you suffer." Gu Mengmeng was stunned. "You can't be suspecting me of having an affair with Snake at such a time?" Elvis remained silent for a moment. "I heard some snake beasts say that Snake announced to the public that you are his female." Gu Mengmeng face-bombed. He was just lonely for too long and needed to grab onto something to escape his loneliness. In his eyes, I am probably no different from a pet dog. He might like me, but it is definitely not the kind of like you are talking about. Do you know? He was so exaggerated, he actually made me the saintess of the Snake King Valley. Elvis and Leah exchanged glances. As the Snake King Valley was relatively closed off, outsiders did not know much about their internal hierarchy. Gu Mengmeng continued, "Do you know what a saintess is?" Elvis shook his head. Gu Mengmeng said, "It sounds nice, she is called a saintess. It is actually a public level-up device. In the Snake King Valley, she chooses the stronger ones to mate with, allowing the males to level up, so as to raise the strength of the Snake King Valley. What's the difference between this and a prostitute for officials?" Elvis and Lee's faces turned cold, their eyes almost popping out of their sockets. They thought that although Snake was a little overbearing, he was at least sincere towards Gu Mengmeng. But he actually... Elvis hugged Gu Mengmeng tightly in his arms. "Let me bring you away." Gu Mengmeng looked up. "The poison in your body." Elvis smiled, gently caressing Gu Mengmeng's little face. "Even if I have to risk my life, I will not let you suffer such grievances." Gu Mengmeng wanted to explain that although Snake had made her a saintess, he did not allow anyone to bully her. She said this to prove that Snake did not have that kind of feelings for her. But, Elvis and Leah seemed to have misunderstood. Gu Mengmeng patted Elvis's chest and said, "Hubby, things are not what you think." Elvis frowned and said, "Don't be afraid, I'm here." With that, Elvis placed the sanitary pad that Leah had made between Gu Mengmeng's legs and told her to clamp it properly. Then, he lifted her up and walked towards the entrance of the cave step by step. The colorful snake blocked the entrance of the cave tightly, hissing and raising its upper body to warn Elvis and Leah. However, Elvis and Leah were not afraid at all. They walked forward step by step, and just as they were about to step into the pile of snakes, the colorful snake suddenly quietened down and retreated to the sides. Elvis looked up and stared straight at Snake, who was standing at the entrance of the cave. He did not retreat at all. Even if there was a huge disparity in strength, he would never let Xiao Meng suffer just because he was afraid of death. Snake was holding a snake skin in his hands. That was the first complete snake skin he shed. It was the most suitable size that Elvis had measured, and it was also the softest and cleanest. That was a precious snake skin that every snake could only shed once in its life, and it was to be given to its own female as a token of love. Chapter 574. Elvis bared his teeth with a murderous gaze. Leah appeared slightly calmer as he took a small step forward. Gu Mengmeng did not have the tacit understanding between Elvis and Leah, but she understood what they meant. Leah held Snake back, even if it was just for a second. Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng and ran. Snake did not seem to notice Elvis and Lee's obvious desire to fight. He just took a step forward and stood closer to Gu Mengmeng. With a cold expression, he said, say that you are not trying to escape secretly when I am not around. No matter what others say, as long as you explain, I will believe you." "What did others say?" "Who?" Gu Mengmeng lowered her head to look at the unbelievably docile colorful snakes surrounding Snake's feet and understood. She did not understand snake language, but it was obvious that these fellows had already repeated everything she had said to Elvis and the rest. From an objective point of view, Elvis was obviously carrying her and escaping. Under such circumstances, he still said that as long as she said no, he would believe her. Gu Mengmeng sighed helplessly. "I don't want to be a saintess." Snake was taken aback. He thought that Gu Mengmeng would stiffen her neck and tell the truth or obediently go along with him. No matter what, he was prepared to deal with it. But she didn't want to be the holy maiden. Snake looked at Gu Mengmeng without saying a word. Gu Mengmeng said, "Being a saintess is too miserable. If you force me to be a saintess, then even if Elvis and Leah are not around, I will still crawl away." Snake frowned. Crawling away? Did she really have to leave him? Gu Mengmeng turned her little face away and said, "But if you can take back your order and not let me be that damned saintess, then I won't run anymore." A dim light flashed across Snake's eyes, as if the world in front of him suddenly had an exit. He looked at Gu Mengmeng with uncertainty and asked, "If I don't let you become a saintess, you won't run away?" Gu Mengmeng nodded and said, "I originally came here to save my son. Now that I haven't even seen my son's shadow, why should I run? If I run away, wouldn't I have come here for nothing? Do you think it's easy for me to enter the Snake King Valley? Was it fun to fall from the sky? When I was in modern times, I didn't even ride a roller coaster. If I fall again, I might have a heart attack and die in midair." Snake's chest suddenly relaxed and his gaze became much gentler. She was clearly the one in the wrong and yet she still looked so righteous, but why did she look so pleasing to the eye? She didn't run away because she hated him, she just didn't want to be the Holy Virgin, that's all. Snake walked forward slowly and released his beast pressure at the same time as he passed by Elvis and Leah. He controlled the amount of beast pressure extremely well, pressuring Elvis and Leah to the ground in a second but not causing Gu Mengmeng to feel that the world was shaking and everything was double. As Elvis's body went limp, Snake caught hold of Gu Mengmeng steadily and held her in his arms. "I just came back from outside and my body has warmed up." This sentence seemed to be an explanation to Leah. Carrying Gu Mengmeng to sit by the fire, he wanted to slow down the speed at which his body cooled down so that he could hug her a little longer. Looking at her fiery eyes, Snake was extremely gentle and said, "I made you a saintess because I was afraid that you would be bullied in the Snake King Valley. After all, the saintess is the person with the highest status in the entire Snake King Valley other than me. But I didn't know that the so-called saintess was actually like this." Aside from the topic. Chapter 575. Actually, I have already announced to the entire Snake King Valley that from today onwards, the saintess of the Snake King Valley is a sacred and inviolable presence. No snake beast is allowed to offend her and she is no longer a level-up tool. But if you really don't like the title of saintess, you don't have to do it. With me around, no snake would dare to bully you. Snakel hugged Gu Mengmeng tightly while his body temperature was still warm. Then, he placed her back beside the fire reluctantly and stepped back a distance away. "Next time, just tell me directly what you like or dislike. Running away is not a good way to express it." Snake hesitated for a moment before slowly taking out his snake skin from behind him. "Do you want this?" He no longer dared to force what he thought was good on her. It seemed like the experience passed down by his father was not suitable for Gu Mengmeng. Surprise and whatnot, it was indeed nonsense. Gu Mengmeng's eyes widened as she took the snake skin from Snake's hands in surprise. She exclaimed in admiration. This is a snake skin, it looks like a super high-grade cloth. It feels so good, so delicate and soft. The tips of Snake's ears turned slightly red. She said she liked his snake skin. Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips and smiled. "Since you have already given me a present, I will not argue with you about the saintess. But can you not bully my hubby in the future? You are a beast king, how can you bully the weak? Snake stared coldly at Elvis and Leah, who were struggling to get up from the ground. He sneered. He has the nerve to be so weak. What do I have to be embarrassed about? Gu Mengmeng choked. Ah, she forgot. This was the beast world. The winner gets to enjoy all the benefits. Taking others by force was the right thing to do. Gu Mengmeng wrinkled her nose. Can't we play happily? TSK. Elvis returned to Gu Mengmeng's side and protected her in his arms. His warm palm caressed her stomach. I may not be strong enough, but I will not let anyone bully my female. Unless Xiao Meng is willing, no one can force her. Leah secretly panted for a long time at an angle that Gu Mengmeng could not see, before forcefully suppressing the fishy taste in his throat. Warming up his facial muscles, he changed into a wretched look and pounced into Gu Mengmeng's arms, pretending to cry, sob sob sob, Mengmeng, look at this snake, he always bullies me, so scared that my little heart is thumping non-stop. As he spoke, Leah pulled Gu Mengmeng's little hand into his arms and pressed it against his chest. Yeah, I want Mengmeng to rub it. Gu Mengmeng knew that although Leah had been stuck at the peak of 3rd level for a long time, not leveling up meant not leveling up. Snake's beast pressure had suppressed Elvis to such a state, and to Leah, the pain was more than doubled. So she didn't stop him. Instead, she followed his words and gently rubbed his chest with her little hand. Does this make you feel better? Leah was also taken aback. He just did not want Mengmeng to worry. But how could he bear to remove this disguise when she was so gentle? His furry big tail circled behind Gu Mengmeng's waist, supporting her body. Actually, it was him hugging her, but it looked like he was acting coquettishly in her arms. Elvis retreated and took over the snake skin from Gu Mengmeng's hands to start making her underwear. Chapter 576. Leah glanced sideways, his long and narrow eyes sweeping across Snake. He smiled faintly and said, I told you long ago to get along well with us, but you just wouldn't listen. Gu Mengmeng poked Lee's chest and said, you can't beat him in a fight and you still have a cheap mouth? Leah held Gu Mengmeng's little hand and kissed it gently. So what if I can't win? With you protecting me, he won't kill me. If he's injured, you'll feel sorry for him. I can't wait for him to hit me every day. Gu Mengmeng smiled and pinched Leah. I knew you were a masochist. Leah smiled flirtatiously. I only do this to you. With that, Leah placed his hand on Gu Mengmeng's abdomen and rubbed it slowly. Will it feel better like this? After all that, it seems like the blood is flowing even more fiercely than before. Gu Mengmeng glanced at Elvis, who was openly making panties, and suddenly stopped what he was doing. His blue eyes were filled with worry. Snake, who was standing a distance away, did not have any expression on his face, but his eyes were fixed on her. The vixen in her arms stared at her as if she wanted to write the 5,000 years of infatuation of China on her face. Suddenly, there was a feeling that the whole world had quietened down, waiting for her words. Gu Mengmeng smiled awkwardly and said, sigh, women are always like this. I'm already used to it, it's nothing, it's nothing. Elvis remained silent and lowered his head to continue making panties. Snake no longer cared about what Elvis would do with his precious snake skin. It would be better if it was used on her. However, when he thought about how she had to bleed like this every month, he felt inexplicably frustrated. I heard that snake meat is very nutritious. Snake lowered his head and looked at the colorful snakes by his feet. He picked the fattest and most tender one and held it in his hand. Ask the fox to stew this snake to nourish you. Gu Mengmeng looked at Snake in shock. Do you know what that feels like? Then one day, your boyfriend says, baby, you lose a lot of blood every month. It's too bad for your body. In the future, I'll kill someone every month and stew it for you to nourish your body. The feeling of. Gu Mengmeng pointed at Snake with trembling hands and said, you are the Snake King, those are your people. Snake replied indifferently, that's right, so I can kill and stew whenever I want. Gu Mengmeng shook her head. No, you know I'm scared of snakes. Snake frowned and looked at the colorful snake. He thought for a while and said, the fox is very good at cooking. When he is done stewing it, you shouldn't be able to tell that it is a snake. Gu Mengmeng was really speechless. Snake's way of recognizing people was really unique. Although Leah could not defeat him, he did not expect his culinary skills to be so well known. Elvis was very familiar with making clothes. He only used a small portion of snake skin to make a small underwear suitable for Gu Mengmeng. He measured it slightly to make sure that there was no problem with the measurements, before finally saying, Xiao Meng doesn't like others to watch her wear her clothes. Both of you go out. Bring those snakes out as well. Snake raised his brows, clearly unconvinced. This was the Snake King Valley. Since when was it up to this weak wolf to give orders? However, Leah stood up seductively and walked past Snake. He smiled and said, this is family relations. The first partner's absolute authority is second only to Gu Mengmeng. Aside from the topic. Chapter 577. Snake was taken aback, so, he could be considered as a member of Gu Mengmeng's family? Looking at Li's wretched face, Snake understood that he meant that if he treated himself as the Snake King, they would not be able to do anything to him, but if he wanted to join Gu Mengmeng's family, he would have to follow the family rules. Snake did not say a word, he just silently turned around and walked out of the cave. A group of colorful snakes followed behind him, none of them staying behind to keep watch. Leah turned back and winked at Gu Mengmeng, before following Snake out of the cave. Elvis pretended not to see the eye contact between Leah and Snake. He was not willing to accept that there was another powerful pervert in his family, one that he could never catch up to no matter what. If Snake was only a 5th-level peak orc, even if he was as strong as Wabi, he dared to say that he would be able to catch up to him one day. But he was a beast king. That was not a gap that could be crossed by hard work alone. It required opportunity and bloodline. And he definitely did not have that kind of bloodline. He would not be able to stop Snake. With the difference in their abilities, Snake could totally kill him and Leah, then replace them and forcefully keep Gu Mengmeng by his side. Not to mention that no one in the Snake King Valley dared to covet Gu Mengmeng, even in the entire beast world, no one would dare to harm a single hair on Gu Mengmeng's head. But he didn't do that, he was even willing to let go of his pride as a king and comply with the family rules. He was Snake, he was the rule of the Snake King Valley. To put it in an arrogant way, he was the rule of the beast world. This meant that Gu Mengmeng was already very important to that snake. However, Elvis did not have the courage to ask Gu Mengmeng again, do you want to take him in as your partner? He couldn't bring himself to ask this question. He was afraid to hear her answer. Therefore, he could only pretend to be deaf and dumb, pretending that he didn't notice anything. He helped Gu Mengmeng wear her snake skin panties properly, then covered her with the sanitary pad that Leah had prepared. After cleaning up the bloodstains on her body, he gently kissed her forehead. Gu Mengmeng wrapped her arms around his neck and asked, "Hubby, is there something on your mind?" Elvis was taken aback. He looked into her eyes and forced a smile. "No, it's just that I haven't seen you for a long time and I miss you a lot." Gu Mengmeng looked at Elvis apologetically and said, "I'm sorry, hubby. I always promised that I would not be willful in the future, but I still dragged you and Leah into such a dangerous situation. I really can't leave my son alone. As long as we successfully rescue him this time, I won't be willful in the future. I promise." Elvis kissed her little mouth lovingly and pressed down the 3 fingers she had raised up. Indulging your willfulness and cleaning up the mess is what a first partner should do. But the more Elvis said, the more guilty she felt. Elvis pulled Gu Mengmeng's little hand and kissed it, saying, "Snake did not forbid Leah and I from taking action, he even guided us to look for some hidden spots in the Snake King Valley. I guess he wants to help us find Hada and the rest." Chapter 578. Elvis smiled faintly. To be honest, he could understand Snake's thoughts. He was in a hurry to find those 3 wolf pups, not because he had any special feelings towards them, but because Gu Meng Meng would not give up until he found those 3 wolf pups. And while Snake allowed Elvis and Leah to search for the children in the Snake King Valley, he could also be helping Ellie hide the children. Not for any other reason, but because once the children were found, Gu Meng Meng's next obsession would become leaving. He gave her a promise and a bottom line, that the 3 children controlled by Ellie were safe, but she just could not find them. So, she had to stay here and continue searching. What if one day, Gu Meng Meng suddenly lost interest in children and thought it through, she could just have another nest. By then, he and Leah would be the second wave of persistence to keep Gu Meng Meng here. So, no matter how much Snake disliked them, he only used poison to control them to prevent them from escaping, but did not really have the intention to kill them. Or else, so what if he was a 5th-level beast? In front of a perversely strong fellow like Snake, he was too weak to withstand a single blow. The commotion in the cave did not escape the 2 people outside. Just as Elvis was thinking about how to reply to Gu Meng Meng, Snake and Leah had already walked back. But with them, there was no colorful snake pack. Gu Meng Meng was rather surprised, asking, where are your people? Not following them anymore? Snake looked at Leah, then replied, they were afraid that I would cook them for you to eat, so they ran away. Gu Meng Meng would be a fool to believe him. Just from the look he gave Leah, Gu Meng Meng knew that Leah must have said something to him outside the cave to convince him to remove the surveillance system. But if he did not expose it, why did he have to embarrass him? So Gu Meng Meng pretended not to understand, and laughed, see, a tyrant will most likely be deserted by his own people. Saying, I will eat you for no reason, it must have scared away the people around him. Gu Meng Meng did not know that her unintentional joke had caused Snake to never say those words again in his life. Meng Meng. Leah wagged his tail and walked to Gu Meng Meng's side. I was scared by him today. You have to sleep with me tonight. Gu Meng Meng looked at Snake and saw that he had no intention of objecting. She thought to herself that Leah had some tricks up his sleeves. He managed to tame Elvis and coax Snake too. TSK, a 3rd-level beast managing a 5th-level beast and a beast king so well. Alright, then you can keep your son to sleep with me. Coincidentally, I'm craving warmth these few days. As Gu Meng Meng said, she opened her arms and waited for Leah to jump into them. But Elvis carried Gu Meng Meng up and said, it's too cold here, it's not suitable for you. Come back with us for a few days. Gu Meng Meng instinctively looked at Snake. Snake was obviously unwilling, but he did not stop her. He just turned his face to the other side and remained silent. Was this tacit approval? Gu Meng Meng grinned and gave Leah 2 thumbs up. Leah lifted his chin proudly and wagged his large tail. Alright, let's go first. Snake must not have rested well while Gu Meng Meng was staying here. Take advantage of these few days to recuperate. Chapter 579. Leah smiled and said, 10 words. Gu Meng Meng looked at Leah with sparkling eyes and counted with her fingers, saying, if you don't want people to know, don't do it. Leah was stunned for a moment, then he shook his head while suppressing his laughter. He wanted to tell her directly, but wanted to know what other strange sentences she could come up with, so he coughed and said, guess again. Gu Meng Meng thought for a while and counted with her fingers for a long time. The sentences she could think of were either wrong or did not fit together. Finally, she shook her head and said, don't keep me in suspense, tell me quickly. Leah smiled and said, distance makes the heart grow fonder, more haste makes waste. Gu Meng Meng thought for a while, then said with a helpless face, you also think that I have something going on with Snake? Leah nodded honestly and said, isn't his reaction the best proof? Gu Meng Meng shook her head and said, he has been lonely for too long and needs a friend. Leah smiled faintly and said, do you know how many snakes there are in the Snake King Valley? Every snake here obeys him and worships him like a god. He's never alone. Gu Mengmeng wanted to say, how could snakes be the same as humans? But on second thought, snakes were the same kind, right? But that great man was already over 1,000 years old. No matter how much he loved him, this difference was still. People say that from 17 to 18-year-old lads to 87-year-old old men, they all like 18-year-old girls. But no one had ever said that an old demon over 1,000 years old would also like 18-year-old girls. Gu Mengmeng could not accept this age difference from the bottom of her heart. She shook her head and said, maybe he is just a little interested in me because of his mother. Leah seemed to have seen through Gu Mengmeng's doubts and sneakily placed his arm on Elvis's shoulder and asked, you think he is old? Gu Mengmeng was taken aback and shifted her gaze away awkwardly. She said, anyway, it's just, nothing like that. Don't think too much. We are here to save our son. But Leah refused to let Gu Mengmeng off just like that. Instead, he asked as if he had discovered something interesting, then tell me, what is your psychological range? Gu Mengmeng thought for a while and said, 3 to 5 years, that's a more ideal age difference. Leah asked, you are 18 this year, right? Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, my birthday is in the first month, I should be 19 now. Leah nodded and asked, then guess, how old are Elvis and I this year? Elvis's face darkened. Even though he could not emit his beast pressure due to the poison, he still exuded a murderous aura. But Leah did not care and urged, look at him, his face has darkened. Guess him first, guess him first. When Leah said that, Gu Mengmeng suddenly realized this problem. She was King married and had 4 children, but she didn't even know how old her husband was. Let her calm down. A snake who looked like he was in his early 20s but was actually over 1,000 years old, Wabi, who looked like he was no older than 20, was actually more than 800 years old, then, a 24 or 25-year-old Elvis. What the hell? Did she really marry a great-grandfather? Gu Mengmeng's voice trembled as she asked, hubby, how old are you, this year? Elvis looked at Leah coldly and said faintly, I forgot. Forgot. Chapter 580. Leah covered his mouth and chuckled. Mengmeng, guess how old am I? Gu Mengmeng looked at Leah and eventually shook her head slowly. Damn it, the heavens are so unfair. Compared to Snake and Wabi, those 2 old demons, Gu Mengmeng no longer dared to judge a person's age based on their appearance. Leah moved his shoulder forward and leaned his handsome face in front of Gu Mengmeng. His voice was soft and magnetic as he said slowly, do you mind, dating a younger brother? Pfft. Gu Mengmeng looked at Leah in horror. She was 19 this year and no matter how she thought about it, she felt that if there was a situation of an old cow eating young grass, she should be that young grass, right? Why did she suddenly feel like she was an old cow? Leah was a little disappointed. His tail drooped down and he asked obediently, you can't accept it? It's not that different. Gu Mengmeng patted Lee's shoulder and asked, Leah, tell me honestly, how old are you this year? Leah smiled and squinted his eyes. Call me Daddy Leah and I will tell you. Gu Mengmeng grabbed Lee's ear and pretended to twist it. If you still want your ear, tell me now. Leah pouted his lips with a wronged expression. 16, crack, Gu Mengmeng felt as if a bolt of lightning had struck her head. She slowly released her grip and looked at Leah with a complicated gaze. How long had she called a fox, who was 3 years younger than her, Daddy Leah? Leah was 16 this year, so wasn't he only 15 when he started dating her? Did this count? Gu Mengmeng's face fell. She felt that she was a wretched and shameless slut. But Leah covered his mouth and laughed. Isn't a young body much better than that old snake's? Gu Mengmeng looked up and wanted to shout, scram. But when she met Lee's long and narrow eyes and combined with his age, Gu Mengmeng could only swallow her anger and say gently, Leah, be good and go play at the side. Leah burst out laughing. Why do you sound like you're coaxing Hedda and the rest when you say this? Don't tell me, you really want to acknowledge me as your son? Then can I also eat it? Lee's gaze shifted towards Gu Mengmeng's chest. Gu Mengmeng covered her chest with both hands and shouted, "Eat your sister. Little brat, you don't know what's good for you. You're taking advantage of me all day long." Leah laughed even harder. He tilted his head and said, "You don't want to be my mother beast, you want to be my sister? Incest, what a heavy taste. But if you like, I can cooperate." Gu Mengmeng gritted her teeth. "Being your mother is also incest." Leah nodded with a look of realization. He looked at Gu Mengmeng and said, "So you like this kind of style?" Gu Mengmeng really wanted to bite off her own tongue. Elvis said with a cold face, "Don't mess with her anymore, she'll really get anxious later." Leah shrugged his shoulders and said, all right, don't be conflicted. I'm not 16. I'm 21. Gu Mengmeng glanced sideways and asked, "Really?" Leah nodded. Gu Mengmeng then heaved a sigh of relief. She suddenly looked up at Leah in a daze and asked, "So, who is 16? Leah held back his laughter. Elvis's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. Gu Mengmeng turned her neck stiffly and looked at Elvis. "Tell me, you're not 16, please." Elvis cleared his throat and avoided Gu Mengmeng's gaze. "I'm not 16. F*******. Chapter 581. Ever since she knew Elvis's age, Gu Mengmeng could not face him normally. She always looked at Elvis in a daze, but as long as Elvis dared to raise his head to look at her, she would immediately avoid him and become nervous. She was already used to letting Elvis take care of her, but now she was repulsed, such as changing sanitary pads. Elvis was vexed and he found Leah to be an eyesore. But he knew that Lee's motive for doing so was to buy more time for Gu Mengmeng to stay in their cave. Because, if Gu Mengmeng behaved too intimately with them, that pair of eyes staring at them in the dark would not be able to control their jealousy and immediately snatch Gu Mengmeng away from them. And now, they did not have the ability to snatch it back. They could only interact once a month, so he could only endure Gu Mengmeng's awkwardness and control his eyes to not look at her. Then, he used every cell in his body to feel her gaze. A week passed by very quickly. When the colorful snakes appeared at the entrance of the cave, Leah and Elvis's eyes dimmed, but they still hung a smile on their faces. They said to Gu Mengmeng, "Snake has sent someone to fetch you. Follow these little snakes and they will bring you back to Snake's cave." Gu Mengmeng nodded her head. Gu Mengmeng knew that she felt awkward after knowing Elvis's age, so she did not have the chance to be intimate with Elvis during the rare time they spent together. He felt a little apologetic, but also a little reluctant. So she endured her awkwardness and walked to Elvis. She hugged him and said, "Elvis, can you send me over? I want to stay with you a little longer." Elvis's body stiffened for a moment before he dared to hug Gu Mengmeng back. "You're not allowed to not love me, no matter the reason." Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips and mumbled, "It's not that I don't love you, it's just that I feel like I've harmed a minor." Elvis bent down and kissed Gu Mengmeng's lips. He gave her a peck on her lips and said, "Orcs are considered adults when they can transform into human form. I have been an adult for 15 years. Gu Mengmeng looked at Elvis in shock, blinking her eyes without saying a word. Becoming an adult at the age of 1. Who the hell are you kidding? Gu Mengmeng thought, what was she doing when she was 1 year old? I can't remember at all, but look at other people's 1-year-old children. They're still sitting in their strollers and biting on their pacifiers. Are you pretending to be an adult in front of me?" Elvis knocked Gu Mengmeng's little head with his hand and said, "Orcs, time scales and growth patterns are different from your side, don't compare them recklessly." Gu Mengmeng rubbed her head in dissatisfaction. "What's the difference? A little wimp will always be a little wimp." Elvis gritted his teeth and said, "Little brat can't make you pregnant, but I can." Gu Mengmeng blushed and stomped her feet. She turned around with her back facing Elvis but did not walk away. The words "hurry and coax me, I'm angry" were clearly written on the back of her head. Leah also knew that Gu Mengmeng's awkwardness these few days had made Elvis feel uncomfortable, so he came out to smooth things over. Elvis is right, after an orc transforms, it means that he has reached adulthood. Moreover, the length of our lifespan should not be different from that of your world. Gu Mengmeng glanced sideways and asked, yeah, all of you can live up to 1,000 years old monster, but I can't. Chapter 582. Gu Mengmeng did not understand and tilted her head to wait for Leah to continue. Leah saw that Gu Mengmeng was no longer angry at Elvis's words and did not keep her in suspense. He continued, under normal circumstances, a 5th-level beast like Elvis can accompany you for the rest of your life as long as you don't eat him. As for a 3rd-level beast like me, even if I don't die in battle or get eaten by you, I can only live for about 30 years. I'm 21 this year, and if I take good care of myself, Gu Mengmeng, I can still accompany you for 10 years. Gu Mengmeng was stunned and her expression turned solemn. 10 years, was Li's life already starting to count down? Gu Mengmeng bit her lower lip and asked timidly, you are lying to me, right? How can there only be a 30-year beast? The people in my world look much weaker than you guys, and it's not a problem for them to live to 70 or 80 years old. Leah smiled brightly, as if he did not care about death. He said calmly, males who are not accepted by females are equivalent to being eliminated weaklings. There's no need for them to exist. So normally, males who are over 10 years old and have not found a partner will voluntarily join the family of some females to become food reserves. To them, being able to let the females they like survive the harsh winter is the greatest value of their lives. Gu Mengmeng said, but I have accepted you. Aren't you my beast pet? Leah chuckled and could not hide the envy in his eyes. He looked at Gu Mengmeng's exposed collarbone and said, an acceptance without a mark will not be acknowledged by the beast deity. But it's all right, even if it's only 10 years. I will still protect you well. Hiss hiss hiss, the little snake made a urging sound. Gu Mengmeng wanted to say something, but Leah rubbed her head and said, don't pity me so easily. I don't think a 10-year life is as miserable as Snakel's long and unfocused life. Unless you plan to abandon me in these 10 years. Gu Mengmeng shook her head. She had mixed feelings and did not know what to say. Hiss hiss hiss, the colorful little snake raised its upper body and the urging became even more obvious. Leah and Elvis exchanged glances and nodded. He gently turned Gu Mengmeng's shoulders and pushed her towards the entrance of the cave. If you don't leave now, Snake will never let you come back to stay in the future. But, no buts, Elvis and I will continue to work hard for Huda and the other two. I will see to the food and try to make it as exquisite as possible for you. If there's anything you want to eat, you can tell the little snakes in the cave. They'll tell me. When she turned back, Leah and Elvis were already standing side by side at the entrance of the cave, watching her leave. Gu Mengmeng hung her head dejectedly and did not say anything else. She just followed the colorful little snake towards Snake's cave. She was still afraid of snakes, so she didn't dare to get too close to them. The little snake seemed to know that she was afraid of them, so as long as she did not leave a certain range, they would not show any dangerous movements. Gu Mengmeng. A female voice sounded in the middle of the journey, blocking Gu Mengmeng's path. Looking up, Gu Mengmeng squinted her eyes. There was a female standing against the light at a high place. She could not see her face clearly, but her voice sounded familiar. Chapter 583. Who are you? Gu Mengmeng used one hand to block the sunlight and asked with squinted eyes. That female laughed coldly, then pulled the vine in her hand and said, you can't recognize me, and can't recognize your own sons? Gu Mengmeng could tell that the 3 balls were her sons just by looking at the shadows against the light. Ellie? Gu Mengmeng was very surprised. She should have been able to recognize from the voice, but the female standing in front of her was clearly a complete female and did not have that iconic snake tail. This made her stunned for a moment. Gu Mengmeng wanted to run to Ellie's side, but the colorful little snakes blocked her way. Gu Mengmeng looked at her sons, hardened her heart, and stepped on the pile of snakes. Now, even if it was a landmine blocking her way, she would step on it without hesitation, much less snakes. Ellie's lips curved slightly, turned around and ran. Gu Mengmeng saw that Ellie had run away and was even more anxious. She chased after her without a care for anything else. Sons, her sons. If she let Ellie run away this time, she did not know when she would be able to see her again. Ellie did not run far, and seemed to be intentionally waiting for Gu Mengmeng to chase after her. Every time Gu Mengmeng almost could not catch up, she would slow down and wait for her. She did not run far, but just in a more winding direction. After chasing after her for a few turns, Gu Mengmeng could not tell north from south. Ellie stopped in her tracks and finally turned around to look at Gu Mengmeng. With a disdainful expression, she said with disdain, "You really dared to chase after me alone. You did not learn your lesson after being tricked. How did such a stupid female get chosen by the beast deity to become the messenger of the beast deity?" Gu Mengmeng placed both hands on her knees. She really wanted to say a few tough words to rebuke Ellie, but after coming to the beast world, she was almost in a state where she did not bring her legs out. When Elvis was around, Elvis would carry her. When Elvis was not around, Leo would carry her. When they reached the Snake King Valley, Elvis and Leo were not around, so Snake started to carry her. She seriously lacked training. If not for chasing after her sons, she would not have been able to persist till here. TSK, so useless. You only ran a few steps and you are already panting like this. I really don't know what the mighty Snake King sees in you. Is it just because of this face? Ellie did not seem to be afraid of Gu Mengmeng. She casually threw away the vines that bound the three little wolves and walked in front of Gu Mengmeng. She pinched Gu Mengmeng's chin and sneered, "You don't even have a single male beside you. I'd like to see how capable you are as the messenger of the beast deity." Gu Mengmeng wanted to push Ellie's hand away, but realized that compared to this scheming bitch, the difference in physical strength between her and herself was too great. It was easy to beat Nina because she was an arrogant female. She had been pampered since birth and had almost no chance to train, let alone fight. That was why Gu Mengmeng, who had learned some basic fighting skills and persevered in working out, could win so easily. However, Ai Li was different. She had lived in the Snake King Valley since young and was able to distinguish herself from the other females to become the sacred maiden. She did not just rely on her scheming ability to pretend to be a little white flower. Chapter 584. While Ellie was in pain, she quickly transformed her snake tail. The tip of the tail was covered in scales, wrapping around Gu Mengmeng tightly, as if she was strangling her prey. Her pupils became a straight line, her eyes filled with venom. Gu Mengmeng. You deserve to die. You deserve to die. Jealousy made Ellie's face contort. She completely disregarded her own fingers, and even used more strength, directly breaking her own fingers in Gu Mengmeng's hands. Then, she strangled Gu Mengmeng's neck with her bleeding hand, saying harshly, "I coaxed him for over 100 years, but he did not even look at me once. Why did he surround you the moment you appeared? He should have killed you the moment you entered the Snake King Valley, and not let you replace me as the most respected female in the Snake King Valley. You deserve to die. Gu Mengmeng, you deserve to die." Gu Mengmeng wanted to struggle, but her entire body was wrapped tightly by Ellie. She could even clearly feel the pain from suffocation disappearing from her ankles upwards. Looks like she could not save it. Gu Mengmeng could only move one hand. She raised it in front of her, and poked at Ellie's eye. Ellie did not expect Gu Mengmeng to have such an evil move, and was caught off guard. Although she dodged instinctively, one of her eyes was still poked by Gu Mengmeng. When a person was in mortal danger, that kind of explosive power was shocking. One of Ellie's eyeballs was skewered on Gu Mengmeng's finger like octopus. Ellie let go of Gu Mengmeng in pain, covering her eye and rolling on the ground. Gu Mengmeng lost her center of gravity, and fell onto the ground, panting heavily like a fish that had been stranded. The eyeball in her hand made Gu Mengmeng feel disgusted, but she could not think so much at this moment. She shook her hand with all her might, and flung the eyeball off her hand. She tried to stand up, and realized that her leg was in a strange and peculiar position, as though it was in a spiral state. As expected, it was broken. Gu Mengmeng was glad that after the pain reached an extreme, she was now numb to pain. Even if she had to crawl to her son's side, or at least untie the vines on her son's body, so that they could escape. As long as her son was fine, she would not hesitate even if she had to sacrifice her life, let alone crippling her legs. Blood followed the path Gu Mengmeng took, drawing a bloody meandering line on the ground. Gu Mengmeng grabbed onto the grass on the ground and moved her body forward with all her might. Her goal was very clear, her son. She wanted to save her son. One step. Just one more step. Gu Mengmeng's fingers were about to reach Heda, and she saw Heda and his brothers opening their mouths, as if they were desperately trying to say something to her. Gu Mengmeng could only hear the sharp chirping in her ears. It was a pity that she could not hear her son's words. Don't be afraid. Mommy is here to save you. Don't be afraid, Mummy is here. As Gu Mengmeng spoke, she smiled at the 3 pairs of terrified and helpless eyes. She used all her strength to comfort her sons. She had finally touched Heda. A smile blossomed on Gu Mengmeng's face, but before she could smile, her body was dragged backwards and she was dragged far away. Heda. Gu Mengmeng stretched out her hand. Her only wish now was to untie the vines on the children's bodies. Chapter 585. Gu Mengmeng raised her arm to block, but her tiny arm was no stronger than a straw under Ellie's shocking biting strength. Was she going to die? Was she going to die? That's right, how could a human fight against a demon? Wasn't it all because of that monkey that Tripiaka could obtain the scriptures alive? But her monkey was not by her side. Life started spinning in front of Gu Mengmeng's eyes. It was just a moment, but she saw herself transmigrating, being picked up by Elvis, dating Leah, breaking up, then becoming partners with Elvis and giving birth to children. In the end, it's your mother who is too useless, she couldn't even save you once. The only regret is that I never heard you call out once, Mummy. The clear voice beside her shocked Gu Mengmeng. With her eyes widened, Gu Mengmeng saw 3 half-orc young men trying their best to hold Ellie back. One used his fangs to bite onto Ellie's snake tail, dragging her backwards. One rode on her back, locking her neck and trying his best to twist it backwards, while the last one was biting onto Ellie's throat, not retreating at all even though blood was sprayed all over his face. Just now, who called out to her? Gu Mengmeng's eyes reddened and she started crying. The pain from her leg being crushed did not even make her cry, but now, because of the word Mummy, her tears flowed. No more regrets, she had no more regrets. Her sons broke free from the vines and could escape. Before she died, she also heard the word Mummy that she yearned for even in her dreams. Gu Mengmeng struggled to sit up to help her sons fight against Ellie, but she saw her suddenly transform into her beast form, instantly becoming thicker and more solid. Her snake scales were hard, the 3 half-orcs who had just evolved could not bite through her scales. The 3 sons were flung away, their mouths full of blood. Ellie's eyes seemed to be red, she opened her mouth wide and charged towards Heda and his brothers, looking as if she wanted to swallow them whole. No! Gu Mengmeng screamed her lungs out, she wanted to rush over to her son's side to protect them, but her leg bones were crushed into pieces, she could not even move a single step. Ellie's body suddenly froze, and she was in a trance for a moment. Gu Mengmeng thought that her screams had worked, so she hurriedly continued, Ellie, don't you hate me? Am I not the one who deserves to die? Come at me. I'm right here, come over. Ellie shook her body and exposed her head. He looked extremely terrifying as he looked at Gu Mengmeng with a malevolent expression, his gaze vicious and twisted. He wanted to save you, he actually used his identity as the Snake King to save you. I am his clansman. I am his saintess. I am the one who has guarded him for over 100 years. Can't you go against your innate nature? Why not? He. I'm going to resist for him to see. I want him to remember me, even if he hates me. With that, Ellie charged towards Gu Mengmeng without a care in the world. Gu Mengmeng could clearly see that with every inch Ellie moved forward, a few scales would fall off her body. By the time she reached Gu Mengmeng, she had already turned into a skinless, bloody worm. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. Ah! Ellie bit onto Gu Mengmeng's thigh, then twisted her body in a twisted position, almost twisting Gu Mengmeng's leg off. Gu Mengmeng screamed even though she could not feel any pain. Half a second before Gu Mengmeng's leg was torn off, a hand grabbed onto the back of Ellie's head fiercely by 3 inches. Ellie's lower jaw was forced to loosen, and Gu Mengmeng's leg was saved. Aside from the topic, was this considered a literary stupidity? But I didn't do it on purpose. Who saved Gu Mengmeng? Chapter 586. The person who had come was Snake. Gu Mengmeng had thought that Elvis would be the first to rush over. After all, they had the mating mark to guide them. She was injured to this extent, so Elvis must have already known. But why wasn't he the first to come? Could she not see him, for the last time? Gu Mengmeng's consciousness started to drift away. The heaviness of her eyelids and the coldness of her body became an irresistible whirlpool that pulled her in. Snake looked coldly at the bloodied worm in front of him. Without a word of nonsense, he squeezed his fingers and strangled her to death. Turning around, Snake carried Gu Mengmeng. The sagging curve of her legs made him frown. He had imagined more than once that Gu Mengmeng was a snake like him, how perfect the scene would be. But now, she looked so ugly with her limp lower body. It was no wonder that she hated snakes. Such an unbearable scene should be hated by others. Snake carried Gu Mengmeng back to the entrance of his cave. Elvis and Leah were lying there with wounds all over their bodies. Snake stopped in his tracks and looked at Elvis. He threw out 2 words calmly, so weak. Elvis clenched his teeth and did not say a word. He had no right to retort. A pair of bloodshot eyes landed on Gu Mengmeng, who was in Snake's arms. He felt as if something in his chest was being sliced off piece by piece and then rubbed repeatedly with salt. A string of blood droplets dripped down from the side of Elvis's mouth. He had clenched his teeth so hard that it was bleeding. Snake glanced at Leah and said, "Turn my snake skin into clothes for her to wear." With that, Snake did not explain further and entered the cave. The colorful snakes quickly coiled together and sealed the entire cave entrance. And Gu Mengmeng, who was in the cave, was already in a state of deep unconsciousness. In the white world, Gu Mengmeng seemed to be floating without gravity. She was surrounded by fog, but it did not make her feel pressured. Instead, it made her feel very comfortable and relaxed. "Child, you are very impressive." A kind voice rang beside Gu Mengmeng's ears. Who are you?" Gu Mengmeng felt someone caressing her hair. The action was gentle and loving. She wanted to know who was talking to her, but her throat could not make any sound and her eyelids were so heavy that she could not open them. "I am the beast deity." That person seemed to have heard the voice in Gu Mengmeng's heart and directly gave the answer. "Beast deity?" Gu Mengmeng was confused. "Beast god, yes, I am the beast god." "My child, the road ahead of you may be rough, but please keep a kind heart." Gu Mengmeng did not understand and asked in her heart, "What do you mean?" The beast deity chuckled. "I'm sorry to have disrupted your original life. You must have been very helpless when you first arrived in the beast world. But now, you have Elvis and Leah who love you, as well as Saint Nazir tribesmen who are loyal to you. In the future, you will have more and more followers by your side. Your words, actions, and way of thinking will influence the beast world for the next 1,000 years. So, don't lose your benevolent heart, understand?" Gu Mengmeng's mind was filled with question marks, but she could not form a proper question. She just felt muddle-headed. The beast deity continued, "Child, do not be sad, do not be sad. You have bestowed upon him the greatest release. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.